Hey everybody, it's your friend Adam. I have a clip for you from a live stream that I did with PSA Sitch and another YouTuber named Drew Welty. It's a interesting discussion that we have on objective morality and specifically the grounding of objective morality. For those of you who don't know, I do a live stream every Sunday on PSA Sitch's second channel. It's called PSA Sitch Undaily. We go long, sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours. We usually watch a video together and discuss it. So I will leave a link to the full live stream in the description below. You can check it out. But this discussion was very interesting, and I've talked a bit about objective morality on this channel. It's a topic I find fascinating, and I think the distinctions that are made in this clip are interesting. So I'd love your feedback in the comments below.
Do you believe that like objective morality is grounded in God?
No.
Did you hear the beginning of the stream or no?
No.
Okay. We spent a long time.
Yeah.
Where I said there's two types of objective morality. There's generalized objective morality, which means that there's some form of some moral system that exists beyond humans that would be a universal system baked into the universe.
Right.
Okay? And that requires there to be God.
Right.
Okay. There's also something called specialized objective morality, which is something that Adam and lots of other atheists talk about, where I say, if you have a specific goal, like I want to create a functioning, healthy first world democracy, what is the best moral system to get that in place?
What you're referring to is that there's a subjective grounding to something, and then you can make objective claims within that subjtive grounding.
Yes. That's the smart way
I don't
of
like the
saying it.
grounding term. What do you mean by grounding?
Okay, so you have to, so basically what I'm saying is that say you are Sam Harris and you think that human flourishing or well-being is the thing that you want to basically think that we should value.
That's the goal. But how is God a grounding if you're saying that that's grounding? Because God isn't a goal.
Okay, so let me put it this way. So say that your goal is well-being.
Okay.
You are subjectively picking that out of all the values that you want to pick. You're saying well-being is the value I want to.
Right, exactly.
And within that framework, you say it's objectively true that this action decreases or increases
well-being.
Well-being.
Right.
But the axiom itself is based on subjective matters. You're picking well-being for some reason that you can't justify. It's not objective.
Well, I'm asking you what the grounding means.
Wait a minute. But that's Drew. That's why I'm saying it's useful to separate these two forms of objective morality.
Yeah, and what Dennis is talking about is the first kind.
I understand that, but he's acting like the second kind doesn't exist, which is crazy.
Yes.
Well, the second kind isn't actually objective morality.
Yes, it is.
Well, some people define it that way. That's why I'm creating two things.
More objective than his morality.
No. No, so the problem is that if the basis for your morality is subjective, you're not talking about an objective moral system.
It depends what you're talking about, because some people, and I've heard from all the people arguing this objective morality question. Because for me, I used to say, well, how can there be objective morality without God? Doesn't make any sense. But they keep coming back to these Sam Harris ideas of, well, they're specifically talking about there are objective measures to create something based on some subjective axiom, as you said. So I think it would be useful for us to be able to have a conversation to say, okay, well, let's just create two terms to explain these concepts, so we don't just argue about definitions for
I agree with different definition. Yeah.
So you're saying the goal is what the part that's subjective, but it's funny to me that the religious morality evolved to maximize well-being. It's the same exact thing that we're trying to maximize.
Well, it could be objective independent of why it evolved, right?
Right.
So
let's get back to the grounding just to tie things up.
Yeah.
Because I often hear people say that you can't have, and this is kind of the argument that he's making here, like the grounding of our morality is in God, because without God, you can't have anything to ground it. You're saying, well, yeah, Sam Harris types can come along and try to ground it in this other thing, this goal of human well-being. But God is not a goal. So I don't understand how grounding how is grounding morality in God? Now, I understand that like picking a God as an enforcement mechanism for your morality that's already grounded in well-being, because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like Christian morality is grounded in well-being. They add this God on as the enforcement mechanism for the well-being that the secular morality doesn't necessarily have. We have to use police departments and like grifting to trick people into doing the moral thing.
Yeah, so I can actually explain this. So, yeah, I think that there's actually a mistake. So my position on this is that, oh, man, this is gonna get. Do I really want? This is gonna get a little bit philosophical here, and I know you hate that, Adam. So I'm sorry.
Well, we call it word salad around here. So if you're gonna spew some word salad, just let us know ahead of time. That's good. You gave trigger warning in the chat. There's some word salad coming.
The correct term is tossing the word salad.
There you go.
I remember. That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Yeah. So I guess the way I would put this is the way it's grounded is the same way that things like facts about the universe are grounded. So just to touch the grounding issue. So so would you agree that it's an objective fact that the acceleration due to gravity is like whatever it is?
Sure, totally. Yes.
Okay.
Independent of human opinion.
Yes. Would you also agree that the fact that you can't make a square circle is an objective fact?
We don't have to do all this.
I don't know what that means.
We don't have to do all this because I know the path that you're going down, and it doesn't get it still puts God in the enforcement mechanism role only, because all you are saying is that because God came up with these ideas, these prescriptions, okay, that means that we have to follow them. It only makes God the enforcement mechanism. It doesn't make them objectively true.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to explain. Let's say that, all I'm saying is that the morality would have to be ingrained into the universe the same way that the acceleration due to gravity is ingrained into the universe by God.
Right.
What my point would be.
But I don't believe that it was ingrained into either of those were ingrained into the universe by God.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying, if you were to believe in God, you would believe that. So say I believe in God. That means that I believe that morality was ingrained into the universe just as objectively as the acceleration due to gravity. That means that it's actually an objective fact, in my view, that there is this moral system ingrained into the universe. So it does actually ground morality as an objective fact, not just a subjective opinion.
But that's still all it operates on is the enforcement side. Because saying
remember,
objectively,
this is like the Minecraft example.
This is like, how does it not? How does it deviate? Listen. When we're talking about a goal grounding, like the human well-being thing, we're having a completely different conversation. We're saying we agree on this goal, empirically, how do we maximize it, right?
Right.
Sure.
With the grounding in God, what conversation are we having?
I'm not disputing that it would be a harder conversation because
it's not any conversation, because what the hell are we even talking about?
We're talking about moral system,
this means the rules are objective. It's still all enforcement. All you're saying is because there's this God that we know is all powerful, all knowing, that's how we know that the rules are right. It's all about enforcement. It's all enforcement.
What's the important? Why does it matter?
About goal. Because we don't know the God goal.
No. I mean, what is it? Why is it important to have this conversation about the distinction between goals and enforcement mechanisms? I mean, you already agreed earlier when we were talking about Minecraft because
people constantly, I'm drilling in on the term grounding, because the definition of grounding is constantly changing. Like, I'm illuminating the fact that Drew has made two statements here. He said Sam Harris is trying to ground his morality in a goal, human well-being. I'm trying to ground my moral system in a God. And I'm saying those are two categorically different things, because God is not a goal.
Right.
Wait. Okay. You don't have to ground morality in a goal.
First of all, even if we take Sam Harris's moral framework, we have to ground that. We have to have some kind of enforcement mechanism in that morality. Otherwise, people are going to say, fuck you, I don't think human well-being is a good goal. I want to have my own goal. I think killing people for fun is my moral system, right? The thing that Dennis Prager's worried about. You have to have some way of getting everyone on the same page. Now that's a different type of grounding than when you're talking about what the goal is going to be. I know people keep talking about grounding. They keep shifting between these two definitions, and it bugs my sensibilities because we can't have an honest conversation about it.
Well, I think the confusion that's happening here is that for me, it can be grounded in like objective fact, or it can be grounded in like some sort of like subjective.
What does that mean?
It means that it would be a fact about the universe.
What does that mean?
Is what it is. It means that it would be like.
How is that not how does that not the enforcement side?
Well,
how is that the goal side?
When you say people, Adam, when you say people are shifting the opinion, the definition of grounding, I'm not understanding, like, what, give me something specific, because I'm not understanding what is bothering you so much about this term.
How is this not clear? Some people are using grounding to mean the enforcement mechanism for their moral system, and some people are using the word grounding to mean the goal of their moral system.
Okay, but so what? Why is that important?
They're two categorically different things. Like, let's decide on a goal. Let's say our goal is to maximize the human population. Okay, so we want to develop a moral system that just, cranks out human beings, right? Okay, we have to have a way of enforcing that moral system, and that's completely different than the actual goal that we come up with. Like, you could have any goal. So, but when they're talking about grounding, we have to ground our morality in God. I go, well, what goal is that? Like, what does God want?
I see.
Like, what's the goal of God? Like Dennis Prager here, his goal is literally to get as many people to believe in God as possible, because he wants the stability of society. Like, his goal is people need to be in fear, because otherwise murder might be okay, right?
Moral panic.
Right. So he's not grounding his morality in God. He's grounding his morality in, we got to keep people scared, otherwise they might murder somebody. And then he's enforcing that grounding with this cop on the beat.
You fucked up when you used the word grounding, Drew.
Well, do you not understand? Like, I constantly hear these conversations go back and forth, and sometimes people use different definitions of grounding in the same fucking sentence. It's like, what are we talking about here?
Okay. I think the issue here is that what happens when you
hold on. What is the goal of your God, Drew? That's what I want to know.
Wait. I want to hear Drew's response to all this.
Yeah. Okay. So my main point here is, so you're focused on goals. You have when you're okay. So if you want to create a moral system, right? You have to create a moral system. If it's subjective, then what the issue is that anyone can pick it. So you have to have some sort of, like, every morality system has to have some sort of enforcement mechanism, right?
Correct.
Now, the issue is that when you have a subjective moral system, or something that's when you pick a goal subjectively, it's very difficult to come up with an enforcement mechanism that isn't just like it's based on a subjective opinion, and therefore you're just enforcing something because you're wanting to enforce your opinion.
I agree. God is a great enforcement mechanism, because you can say, this is God's opinion. We all agree God kicks ass, so let's do this.
The issue when we're talking about God is that if it's a fact about the universe that murder is wrong, then it doesn't matter what your opinion is. So yes, God is a enforcement mechanism, but the actual moral rules would be a fact about the universe.
Wait a minute.
He's not answering. This is like punting.
No. Because there's something you have to consider. Because if God says, I'm dictating that murder is wrong, but then there's no enforcement. So God says, well, everyone gets to go to heaven after you die. So then it doesn't matter if God has a moral system.
Yeah,
no, it's not true. So just because there's not just because there isn't like an enforcement of the thing, there'll still be moral facts, right?
No, there wouldn't, because what's the point? What's the point of is something a fact if something a fact if you can disregard it with it has no consequence on you whatsoever.
I mean,
like, you can't disregard gravity, right? It's just going to affect you regardless of your opinion.
Yeah, but if it's the case that there are aliens across the universe, that doesn't affect us right now. Just because it doesn't affect us doesn't mean it's an objective fact.
I still want to know what the goal of your God is, Drew. Just because I want to know.
Okay, so
how
you're
grounding your morality.
Wait a minute.
In my definition of grounding.
Before we get to that. Okay, So you could say, okay, it's an objective fact that aliens exist somewhere in the universe. It has no effect on you whatsoever. Okay, fine. So you could say, okay, well, it's a moral objective fact that God believes murder is wrong. Okay, if I grant you that, but there's no enforcement mechanism, then the entire conversation is pointless because who gives a shit?
I mean, if you don't think that you should obey moral laws, then that's fine. But that's a separate conversation, right?
No, but you could no. But the whole point is not a question of whether you should obey moral laws or not obey moral laws. It's a question of whether you should obey. Do you need God to exist to obey moral laws? So if God has no enforcement mechanism, that defeats the entire purpose of the argument, which is that you need God as the enforcement mechanism.
I'm not sure that I'm trying to sort this out. Like, I think that believing that God exists, if that guarantees that morality is objective, that in and of itself is a enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, it's a good enforcement mechanism. We're trying to get what else?
It's only not punishment. It's only an enforcement mechanism if you believe God is doing something. If you disregard the moral system,
not necessarily.
Yes, it is. Because if I believe that there's a God who doesn't give a shit about anything you do, how is that going to affect my moral decisions in life whatsoever?
That is my God, by the way, Sitchin. Thanks for
giving
him a shout out.
Let's say I don't believe in hell. Okay,
right.
I can still think that I should follow God's law because I care about what God's law is. It doesn't matter if it's punished for it. And
you could be the exceptional individual. Yeah, sure.
But I could say that it's just a fact that you're wrong about something because there are these objective facts. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're punished for them. Like I'm not necessarily one of the things about Christianity is that all Christians that accept Jesus or whatever are forgiven, so they can sin all they want and they still go to heaven. So it's just the case.
Well, doesn't that depend on the sect of Christianity?
I'm gonna
maybe.
I remember what I'm supposed to debate Destiny on. It's morality. It's objective morality. Destiny did a debate with some other YouTuber on objective morality that rubbed me the wrong way because of this.
The guy that was on your stream.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did a debate with Tom Jump about objective morality, and Tom Jump has this idea of objective morality that's completely incomprehensible. I hope you guys are following along on my argument with objective morality.
Well, no, but I feel okay. Wait a minute. I feel like because the reason I have such a problem with Tom's argument is because he's defining the problem away with his weird definition.
Yes, totally.
But I feel like you're kind of doing the same thing, Drew, because it's like if you remove. Yeah, you could decide as an individual that, okay, if God exists and there's no enforcement mechanism, I could still choose to follow God's will. It still makes it a moral fact. Okay, fine,
it's
whatever.
It's a carrot instead of a stick, though, Sitch.
But when it comes to right, but that's not, whether you want to be the exceptional individual or not, that's fine. And I don't really want to get into this conversation about moral facts or whatever, because the whole point with Dennis Prager is that, to me, it seems like he's making this argument is that you need God to exist because otherwise people aren't going to follow the moral laws.
Enforcement.
I'm actually not sure that that's actually his argument. I think
that is.
I think you're giving him. I think you're giving him lots of. Wait. So again, do you think that this video is just some philosophical meandering by Dennis Prager?
Yeah. So I actually think what happens here is that. So a lot of times what happens is that Christians move from an argument like this to the idea that so if you have say what do you call it? Oh, hey, what's up?
What is the goal grounding of here? I'll cut to the chase.
No, I'm good. So if you have a situation where people don't want to accept the idea that morality is subjective. They don't. So simply arguing that it's the case that it isn't objective unless God exists immediately leads people into being able to make the moral argument for the existence of God just based on the pressure that people don't want to think that they can't say the Nazis were actually wrong.
Yeah, but the moral argument for the existence of God is crap. It's the worst argument out there.
No, I don't think it's good. I'm not. That's a completely separate question. It's just there is philosophical pressure for people to want to accept that objective morality exists.
Okay, so what?
Yeah, so what exactly?
Okay,
and also,
so here's my point.
I want to get to the grounding, man. What is the what is the goal of God?
But let's wait. Let's stay a little focused though.
Okay.
Because I want to understand what Drew's defense of this video is, because I don't fully understand it.
Okay, so you're saying that he's implying that it's necessarily the case or something that if you're saying the point of the video is basically we have to have God or everybody's going to start thinking that murder is okay.
The point of the video, which I believe he even says directly at the end, is that Dennis Prager believes society is better off with objective morality based in God, and thinks that the moral confusion that we're going through right now is because we're getting rid of our Judeo-Christian values.
Sure.
So do you disagree or agree with that interpretation?
I guess I agree with that. I guess I'll just that's fine.
Well, then what's the issue?
Well, I already told you the primary issue was with the fact that I thought you were insinuating all sorts of like you've done this with, like I said, you did it with Ben Shapiro in the past. I specifically responded to the fact that you thought that he would want to like enforce via like theocracy or something, like his religious rules upon people if he had the option, which I totally unfounded.
If Dennis Prager had the button that controlled reality, you don't think he would say, well, America is going to be a theocracy now?
Oh, I do not think he would do that. No.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, look, it's my opinion. I haven't watched him enough to say, okay, well, he said X, Y, Z, so I don't know.
If he had a button though that said everyone believes in God, he'd be like pressing that thing like all day long.
I'm not even convinced he would do that.
I think he would.
Like I told you, like the other day.
He just said he's frightened at the very end of the video. He's like, "This should frighten you." He's like, "Press that button."
Just because it's frightening doesn't mean he would want to make it so that people don't have.
Can we get back to the grounding now, Sitch?
We can do whatever you want, man. I'm just.
Okay, we can get. Okay, so it seems like Drew agrees with our interpretation of Dennis Prager's intention, but he doesn't agree with our categorizing him as being a theocrat who wants to push his rule onto everyone via. Fine, fair enough.
I think in addition to the fact that there's like he thinks that there's like a problem that's going to arise if we don't have morality be objective in this way. I think also it's the fact that there is philosophical pressure for people to want to have objective morality. And because of that,
I agree. People want to know the rules. They want to know how to behave.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, he's essentially, if you make this argument successfully, you're pushing people towards the God camp because people want to accept this. If people accept this argument, then they're going to want to believe in God because of philosophical pressure. I think it's an additional part of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's manipulation. Grifters. We're all grifters.
Oh, come on, man. Every philosophical argument like make you a grifter?
Philosophical arguments, except for empiricism? Yes. Big time grift.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm basing my opinion on Dennis Prager by his fucking, as a Jew, he's complaining that people aren't saying Merry Christmas anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
He has this view that America is gaining something by these mythical Judeo-Christian values, and he's so afraid that when we get rid of them all, that we're going to decay into madness and anarchy, which I think is an absurd claim.
And
I think it's so accurate. It's so accurate.
Are you happy with the 35% of people that believe the Earth is only 10,000 years old?
Am I happy with that? No.
No. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Do you believe in evolution and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time. He's a moral foundation. He's a moral foundations theory guy. Drew is.
Yeah.
So couldn't Dennis Prager had made that same argument, when fucking Darwin was coming along saying, whoa, this evolution stuff, this chips away at the Judeo-Christian values of our society.
I think Dennis Prager would make that argument because I think Dennis Prager is not an evolutionist. I could be wrong, but
I don't know that.
Yeah. I think he might be a creationist.
Well, you can be both.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The macro micro, but can we get back to the grounding thing now? Because I really want to get to the grounding thing because this comes up all the time. They're like, "Oh, we ground morality in God," and I think, well, and then they bitch about Sam Harris grounding it in well-being, and I'm like, well, you're talking about two categorically different things here because the Christian moral system is grounded in well-being. It's just enforced with God.
Okay, so I think the issue here, maybe there's actually probably something here. I think there's actually.
Oh, you think? Yeah, there's totally something here.
Before I was just misunderstanding what you're saying. I think the issue with the grounding argument is the fact that there's not a good enforcement mechanism for subjectively based things. So if you ground, so the idea is that you want to ground morality in something objective, because that is better than grounding something in something subjective, because there isn't, you can't, it's really, there's not a way that you can enforce something subjective without all you're doing is pushing your opinions on people. You're not actually.
We're getting into word salad land here. So let's tie.
I feel like every time I'm saying something, like it's like,
am I wrong? Am I wrong here, Sitch? I mean, he's.
To be honest, I'm not listening. I'm reading. I found an article about Dennis Prager talking. He's so enamored with Stephen Meyer, the big intelligent design guy. So.
Oh yeah, see,
trying to figure out if Dennis Prager is anti-evolution.
I told you. Hey, Drew, Drew, I don't mean to cut you off, but really, I want to shoot the rest.
You cut him off so much.
I want to shoot the rest of my video, and also, I don't feel like you're. I mean, you're not really. You obviously understand. I mean, I feel like you could steel man my argument here about the grounding versus the grounding. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you're saying the enforcement mechanism is the grounding, and I'm calling bullshit on that. And I'm saying the anti-theists have the same, like they're basically copy pasting the Christian goal, which is well-being, and copy pasting it without the enforcement mechanism because they don't like that part. But Dennis Prager's out there. There's Dennis Prager's out in the world that say, listen, we need that enforcement mechanism, and I'm here to propagandize you to believe in that enforcement mechanism.
I think I can.
And I don't necessarily know that that's a bad idea. Like, go, Dennis, get more.
I think that maybe this could be fixed by just. Maybe the issue is that I think what happens when we're having these conversations, we're really talking about the quality of the grounding. So I would say that
what first. Hey, hold on. The quality of which grounding? The goal or the enforcement?
Okay.
See, this is why I'm saying, hey, you got to have two different words here, and you're vacillating back and forth between definitions in a sentence.
I'm not moving definitions ever.
You are. You're not sticking to one definition of grounding. That's why I stopped you on the word salad. I'm like, first of all, that sounded like the first grounding. Now he's on the second grounding. Now he's on the third.
I don't agree that something that has to be a goal for it to be grounded. I don't understand what that means. Like you're just saying.
Hold on. You criticized Sam Harris's grounding of morality in well-being.
Yes.
When you say criticize, he's criticizing it as being subjective, not objective.
Let me put it this way. It can be the case that you can ground something in a goal. I think that's bad because it's subjective. But you can also ground something in something different.
Subjective, but let's set that aside for a second because
right.
Like, let's pretend everyone has a good, like, we're not going to get people here that are saying, yeah, I really like to cut my dick off and like that's how I think human well-being operates. Okay. Like, let's put the outliers aside and say, okay, this is what Sam Harris likes to do. He likes to say, we all have a general idea what human well-being is. He wants to say, putting people in cloth bags is bad. That's not well-being. I know the conservatives can make an argument for there's something to be said for chastity. We can go round and round,
right.
But we're all having an argument about human well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not subjective what the goal is. The goal is human well-being. The subjectivity is what human well-being means, but the goal is the same.
Yeah, sure.
So we're grounding it in something that is subjective, but we're saying we're searching for human well-being. Right.
Yeah, that's the issue that I have with grounding. I think that the problem.
What are you grounding now? What are you grounding your morality in, and which form of grounding are you using?
I think that you're okay. I'm not using two different. Let me just.
What is the goal of your moral system, Drew?
Screw the word grounding,
Drew.
Okay?
What is the goal of your moral system?
Okay, forget the word grounding for a second.
What is
your fundamental axiom? Is that let's say your fundamental axiom is well-being is good or something like that,
mm-hmm.
And then like my fundamental axiom is to like obey God's will or something like that.
So your goal is to obey God's will.
So this is a
maybe.
This is a perfect example. Okay, so let's say the goal is to obey God's will in one system, and the goal is human well-being in the other. you're still going to have the subjective debate over what is God's will. What God's will is this. No, God's will is that. God's will is this. God's will is that. On the other side, you're going to go, okay, human well-being is this. Human well-being is that. Like the whole idea of a moral system is to orient a group of people to a goal. Okay. God, the only reason God evolved as a concept is to, as an enforcement mechanism on making people work towards that goal. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I totally grant that there will still be arguments about what God's will is. But if it's the case that God exists, it would be that there is actually something objective that is God's will. So morality would, in fact, be objective.
It wouldn't change the structure of the moral system at all, though.
It wouldn't change the structure of the moral system.
Right, because there would, nobody's talking directly to God, or they're claiming to be talking directly to God. So, I mean, there would still be the debate, and it would be somewhat subjective, because...
so there would be debate. If you had a society that all had the same beliefs, though, it would function as if it was objective.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and I think the issue is that, so, like, if you have a group of religious people that all, like, it's much easier to get a group of people that are religious to adhere to the same moral system than it is to get a group of atheists, because
we
say
I know this, but
so
and we know why.
Yeah.
But that's all based on, you still have the same goal of human well-being. So let's although
I'm not sure that ultimate goal is, well, I'm not going to get into that. That's a totally different.
Totally.
Yeah. Don't want to get into that right now.
So let's wrap it up. What do you guys say?
Well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering. Because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering.